You're at a friendly gathering. Someone walks up, shakes your hand, says their name. You smile, you nod, and right at the moment they let go of your hand, that name just evaporates from your mind. Your brain made a lightning fast decision that this information isn't useful right now. You're not stupid. Your brain's priority system just works differently. In this video, I want to walk you through 11 scientific reasons that show exactly what game your brain is playing with you. 1. Your brain is running a multi-layered information operation at the same time. The moment you meet someone, your mind isn't just listening to the name. At the same time, it's measuring their tone of voice, reading their facial expression, calculating the physical distance between you, and making an unconscious judgment about how likable or how cautious you should be around this new person. The name in the middle of all this parallel processing is just a short string of sound that has to compete with everything else for a spot in memory. Psychologists call this limited processing capacity, meaning the human mind is like a desk with room for only a few files, not more. When the files fill up the desk, a sheet of paper like a name is usually the first thing to fall off. This means the more socially sensitive you are, the higher the chance you'll forget the name because you're working on several other fronts at the same time. 2. Without an emotional hook, information just slips away. The human mind loves stories, not raw data. When a name gets tied to an event, a joke, a specific moment, it suddenly has a hook to hang on to. But in a quick, casual introduction, no hook is formed either. This isn't a sign of forgetfulness. It's a sign that your brain won't store something until it sees a good enough reason to. Some people remember a name after hearing it once. Others need it repeated 3 or 4 times before it sticks. The difference is like trying to memorize a random number versus a birthday that actually matters to you. 3. Your focus is on the content, not the packaging. When you talk to someone, what really matters to you is the feel of the conversation, what they're saying, how they think, what energy they bring. The name is just an outer label stuck to that content. Your brain is busy building a complete personality profile of this person, and in that profile, the verbal label carries the least weight. This isn't a sign of being shallow, it's actually the opposite. Research on people with strong conceptual thinking shows this type of person processes patterns and meaning faster than raw labels. Your brain is saying, I already have this person's emotional biography. This kind of processing is amazing for empathy, but it's a real weak point at formal events. 4. Your visual memory is stronger than your auditory memory. Faces get stored in your brain like photographs, sharp and detailed. You can recognize a face years later, but the name has vanished into a blind spot. This means there's an imbalance in how your brain stores visual memory versus verbal memory. Think of it like 2 separate storage drives, one with terabytes of space and the other with just a few megabytes. Details like clothing, posture, eye color get recorded clearly, but a name, just a few syllables of sound, gets lost somewhere in that limited space. Even well-known historical figures in science dealt with this same issue, which tells you this pattern has nothing to do with intelligence or attention. It just means their brain invested more in visual recognition than in verbal labels. 5. When social stress kicks in, your recorder shuts off. If meeting strangers makes you even a little anxious, your nervous system shifts into alert mode. In that state, your body's priority is social survival, not storing new information. This means the resources that should go toward memory get redirected toward managing anxiety. This isn't fear, it's biology. When your sympathetic nervous system activates, your body's getting ready to react, not to archive the moment. Picture trying to save a heavy file on a computer that's running a security scan at the same time. The save speed drops dramatically. Your brain is busy defending you, not precisely recording the environment. 6. You missed a golden window for repetition. Memory experts say the best chance to lock in a name is in the first few seconds after hearing it, by repeating it right away. But a lot of people skip this because it feels forced or awkward. In some cultures, repeating someone's name is a normal part of etiquette. In others, it can feel unnatural or forced. When you skip this step, your brain never gets the chance for that initial consolidation. The difference between this and actually storing the name is like the difference between writing something down versus just glancing at a page quickly. Interestingly, people who naturally have high social awareness often skip these techniques entirely because they'd rather seem natural than seem effective, and that naturalness sometimes costs them the name. 7. Your brain runs the numbers before it decides to store anything. Behind the scenes, there's an unconscious calculation happening. Will I actually need this name again? If the answer isn't a clear yes, your brain prefers to spend its resources elsewhere. Research on selective memory shows some people naturally discard information that has no immediate use, while others hold on to everything just in case. It's like the difference between a small, organized closet and a huge storage room full of stuff. Neither is inherently better, they're just different strategies for managing space. Your brain keeps what's likely to be useful, and the name on its own with no context attached usually doesn't make the cut. 8. Identity is about behavior, not a sound label. For a lot of people, a person is basically the feeling they give off, that funny guy, that charming woman. The name is secondary for your mind's categorization system. This isn't disrespect, it's actually a deep form of experiential thinking. Psychologists call this episodic memory, meaning you archive people based on moments and situations, not labels. People with strong abstract thinking tend to see names more as a social convention than as part of someone's actual identity. A lot of people think a person is defined by their name. You think a person is defined by how they act. This trait is exactly what makes you so strong at deep empathy, but it works against you in formal networking situations. 9. The name arrives exactly when your attention hasn't fully switched on yet. At the start of any social interaction, it takes your mind a few moments to fully shift into complete attention mode. Those first few seconds are exactly when the name gets said, meaning the key piece of information is delivered before your attention system has fully booted up. This is similar to something in memory psychology called the temporal priority effect, where information given too early or too late has a lower chance of sticking compared to information given in the middle of the flow. In a typical introduction, the name is always the very first thing said, which puts it exactly at the worst possible point for your mental readiness to absorb information. 10. Interference from back-to-back introductions. If you meet several people in a row at a party or conference, your brain runs into interference. The first person's name hasn't fully settled before the second and third names arrive and pile on top of it. It's like writing several messages on one thin sheet of paper, where the lines overlap and none of them can be read clearly anymore. The shorter the gap between introductions, the higher the chance of this interference. That's exactly why at big parties with large crowds, even people who are usually great with names end up confused and remembering nothing. 11. Part of your mind is busy evaluating yourself, not recording outside information. During an introduction, part of your attention shifts toward yourself, how you're coming across, whether your smile looks natural, whether you said the right thing. This kind of self-monitoring pulls attention resources away from the outside world and redirects them inward. The more active this self-monitoring is, the less room is left to record outside information, like a name. This is a well-known phenomenon in social psychology. When a person's attention turns inward, their capacity to process the outside world drops sharply. This means the more worried you are about your own performance in a social situation, the higher the chance you'll forget the other person's name. Not because you're inattentive, but because your attention is somewhere else. And now, the main point of all this. None of this means you're a better or worse version than anyone else. This video is showing you that your brain simply chose a different model for processing human connections. Some systems prioritize depth over surface. Others prioritize surface over depth. Neither one is absolutely superior. They're just two different paths to the same goal. Tell me in the comments which of these 11 points sounded exactly like you. And if you know someone who always thinks their memory is broken, send them this video. They need to understand their memory isn't broken. It's just calibrated differently than everyone else's.